I stood in the center of my own baby shower, surrounded by pastel balloons and gift bags, when my mother-in-law Amanda Green destroyed me. The room was packed with relatives and friends, all smiling, all celebrating. Amanda had insisted on hosting, and I'd been grateful. I was 7 months pregnant and exhausted. She'd handled everything, the decorations, the food, the guest list. I thought she was being kind. I was wrong. Amanda tapped her champagne glass with a fork. The chatter died. She smiled at me, that tight, controlled smile I'd learned to read over 2 years of marriage to her son. "Before we play games," she announced, her voice carrying across the room, "I need to say something important." My stomach tightened. Something in her tone felt wrong. "Tracy has shared some very personal fears with me about this pregnancy," Amanda continued. "She's terrified she won't be a good mother. She's worried about her mental health. She's even questioned whether she's stable enough to raise a child." The room went silent. My face burned. Those were private conversations, whispered confessions during vulnerable moments when I'd trusted her. She'd twisted them into weapons. "I think we all need to support her," Amanda said, her voice dripping with false concern. "Because honestly, I'm worried too." I looked at my husband Mark. He stood against the wall, staring at his shoes. He said nothing. If you're watching this video, please like, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching my story from. The guests left quickly after that. No one knew what to say. They mumbled awkward goodbyes and avoided my eyes. I stood by the window, watching cars pull away, my hands shaking. The baby kicked, sharp and insistent, as if sensing my distress. Mark finally approached me an hour later. I was sitting on the couch, surrounded by unopened gifts. "Tracy," he started, his voice careful. "I know that was uncomfortable, but, uncomfortable." I turned to face him. "Your mother just told everyone I'm unstable. She shared things I told her in confidence. Things I trusted her with." Mark sighed. "She's just worried. You know how Mom is. She means well." "She means well?" I repeated, my voice rising. "Mark, she humiliated me in front of 50 people." He held up his hands. "Let's not make this bigger than it is. She's stressed too. This is her first grandchild. She's just protective." I stared at my husband, the man I'd married 2 years ago, the man whose child I was carrying. He was making excuses. He was choosing her. "So you're not going to say anything to her?" I asked quietly. Mark shrugged. "What do you want me to do? Start a war? She's my mother, Tracy. I can't control what she says." I opened my mouth to respond, but movement caught my eye. Amanda stood in the doorway, watching us. When our eyes met, she smiled. Not a warm smile. A knowing one. She'd heard everything. And she was pleased. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying Amanda's smirk over and over. The baby shifted inside me, restless. I placed my hand on my belly and tried to breathe. That's when the memories started flooding back. Small moments I'd dismissed as nothing. 3 months ago, Amanda had warned me about every possible pregnancy complication in graphic detail. "You know, Tracy, women your age have higher risks of gestational diabetes," she'd said over lunch. "And preeclampsia. My friend's daughter almost died from that." I'd felt my anxiety spike instantly. 2 months ago, she'd commented on my eating habits constantly. "Are you sure you should be having that? Too much sugar isn't good for the baby." Or, "You're eating again. You don't want to gain too much weight." Last month, when my doctor recommended light exercise, Amanda had called me that same evening. "Are you really going to risk the baby by exercising? I would never forgive myself if something happened because you were being careless." I'd cancelled my prenatal yoga class the next day. Each comment alone seemed harmless, even caring. But together, they formed a pattern. A deliberate campaign of fear and control disguised as concern. I'd been so desperate for her approval, so wanting to be a good daughter-in-law, that I'd let her into my head. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text message. From Amanda. I picked up my phone with trembling hands. The message was short. I hope you're not upset about today. I only said what needed to be said. If something goes wrong with this pregnancy, it won't be my fault. I warned everyone. I read it 3 times. The coldness of it. The calculation. She was already building her defense, already preparing to blame me if anything happened to my baby. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the phone. I took a screenshot. I wasn't sure why, but instinct told me to save it. I showed Mark the message. He was brushing his teeth, getting ready for bed. He glanced at the screen and frowned. She's just anxious, he said through toothpaste. Mom always catastrophizes. You know that. Mark, she's threatening me. She's not threatening you. She's just expressing her worries. He rinsed his mouth. Honestly, Tracy, you're being too sensitive. Pregnancy hormones, probably. I felt something crack inside me. I went back to the bedroom and set my phone on the nightstand. When I woke up 3 hours later, my throat dry, I reached for my phone to check the time. The message from Amanda was gone. I opened the text thread. It had been deleted. Mark? I shook him awake. Did you delete Amanda's text from my phone? He rolled over, groggy. What? No. Maybe you deleted it by accident. I didn't. Tracy, it's 3 in the morning. Can we talk about this later? I lay back down, my heart pounding. He was lying. He deleted it to protect his mother. The next morning, I confronted Mark over breakfast. He was eating cereal, scrolling through his phone. You deleted that text, I said, my voice flat. Mark set down his spoon. He didn't deny it this time. Okay, yes. I did. Why? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. Because I knew you'd obsess over it. Mom didn't mean it the way it sounded. She's just scared, Tracy. This baby means everything to her. This baby isn't hers, I said. This baby is ours. I know that. But Mom has always been involved in my life. She's always been there for me. I can't just cut her out because you two are having some issues. Some issues? I set down my coffee mug carefully. Mark, your mother is sabotaging me. She's undermining me. She's making me feel like I'm losing my mind. Mark's jaw tightened. You're being dramatic. I'm being honest. Look, he said, his voice dropping. You want to know the truth? Mom is terrified of losing control. She's terrified that once this baby comes, she won't be the most important person in my life anymore. And honestly, she's not wrong. I don't want conflict. I just want everyone to get along. I stared at my husband. He'd just admitted that his mother was acting out of fear and control, and his solution was to let her. So what am I supposed to do? I asked quietly. Just deal with it. She'll calm down once the baby's here. I stood up from the table. I felt very alone. That afternoon, I started documenting everything. Every text. Every conversation. Every comment. I opened a private note on my phone and began to write. 2 weeks later, I had my regular OB appointment. I'd been feeling off, anxious, unable to sleep. My blood pressure had been creeping up. Dr. Patel, my obstetrician, reviewed my chart with a frown. Tracy, your blood pressure is elevated again. That's 3 appointments in a row. I forced a smile. I've just been stressed with preparing for the baby. You know, nesting and all that. Dr. Patel set down her clipboard and looked at me directly. Stress isn't good for you or the baby right now. You're at 30 weeks. We need to keep your blood pressure stable. Is there something going on at home? I opened my mouth to tell her everything. About Amanda. About Mark's silence. About how I felt like I was drowning in my own life. But the words stuck in my throat. No, I lied. Everything's fine. I'll try to relax more. Dr. Patel didn't look convinced, but she nodded. I want to see you back in 1 week instead of 2. If your blood pressure isn't better, we'll need to talk about modified bed rest. I agreed and left the office. I sat in my car in the parking lot and cried. I cried so hard my chest hurt. I cried until I had no tears left. Then I dried my face, started the car, and drove home. Mark was there with Amanda. They were sitting at the kitchen table, drinking tea, laughing about something. Amanda looked up when I walked in. Oh, Tracy. How was your appointment? Is everything okay with the baby? Her voice was sweet. Concerned. Fake. Everything's fine, I said. Amanda smiled. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Because I've been thinking, you look so tired lately. Why don't I start coming to your appointments with you? You know, for support. Amanda started attending all my appointments. I didn't know how to say no. Mark thought it was wonderful. See? She's trying, he'd said. She wants to be involved. This is good, Tracy. But it wasn't good. At the next appointment, Amanda answered questions Dr. Patel directed at me. How are you sleeping, Tracy? Dr. Patel asked. She's sleeping fine, Amanda interjected before I could speak. She just worries too much. Always has. Dr. Patel looked at me. I nodded, though it was a lie. I wasn't sleeping at all. And how's your stress level? Oh, she's doing much better, Amanda said, patting my hand. We're making sure she rests. She can be a bit dramatic about things, but we're keeping an eye on her. I felt my face burn. Dr. Patel's eyes narrowed slightly, but she continued the exam. Amanda dominated the entire appointment. She asked questions about labor, about delivery options, about postpartum care. She talked about how she'd handled her own pregnancy with Mark. She made suggestions about my birth plan without asking what I wanted. By the end of the appointment, I felt invisible. Dr. Patel walked us to the door, but her hand touched my elbow gently. Tracy, can you stay behind for just 1 moment? I need to check something. Amanda looked annoyed but left. The door closed behind her. Dr. Patel's expression shifted. She looked at me with genuine concern. The kindness in her eyes made my throat tighten. I knew what was coming, and I wasn't ready. Dr. Patel guided me to a private chair in the corner of her office. She pulled up a stool and sat across from me, close enough that Amanda couldn't see us through the door's small window. Tracy, she said quietly, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Do you feel safe at home? The question hung in the air between us. My heart pounded. I could feel tears building behind my eyes, but I blinked them back. I'm safe, I whispered. Physically safe. Dr. Patel nodded slowly. Emotional safety matters too, especially during pregnancy. The woman who just left, is she making you feel supported or controlled? I opened my mouth, but no words came out. I wanted to tell her everything. I wanted to scream that I felt like I was suffocating, that my mother-in-law was systematically destroying my confidence, that my husband wouldn't protect me. But if I said it out loud, it became real. It became a problem I'd have to face. I'm okay, I finally said. Really? I'm just adjusting to everything. Dr. Patel didn't look convinced. She handed me her card. If you ever need to talk, or if things change, you call me directly. Day or night. Do you understand? I took the card and nodded. She opened the door, and I walked out to the waiting room where Amanda sat, scrolling through her phone. Amanda looked up and smiled. But there was something in her eyes. She'd been watching the door. She'd seen Dr. Patel pull me aside. "Everything okay?" Amanda asked, her tone light but her eyes sharp. "Fine," I said. "Just scheduling my next appointment." We walked to the parking lot in silence. That night, my phone buzzed with a text from Mark's aunt, uncle, and several cousins. One by one, they were uninviting me from upcoming family events. Amanda had gotten to them first. The messages were polite but cold. Mark's Aunt Diane said she thought it would be less stressful if I skipped the family barbecue. His cousin Jennifer said she was keeping her baby shower small and intimate now, even though I'd been invited weeks ago. His uncle Robert simply said, "Maybe it's best if you rest instead." I sat on the couch, reading each message, feeling the walls close in. Amanda had told them something. She'd poisoned them against me. When Mark came home, I showed him my phone. "Look at this. Your family is cutting me out." Mark scanned the messages and shrugged. "Maybe they're just trying to be considerate. You have been stressed. Maybe they think you need space." "Mark, your mother did this. You don't know that." "Yes, I do." He tossed my phone back to me. "Not everything is a conspiracy, Tracy. You're being paranoid." I wanted to scream. Instead, I went to the bedroom and locked the door. I lay on the bed in the dark, my hand on my belly, feeling the baby move. I whispered to my daughter, though I didn't know yet if she was a girl. "I'm going to protect you," I said. "I don't know how yet, but I will." The next morning, my phone rang. An unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Hello? Tracy? It's Aunt Green. Helen. Mark's father's sister. The quiet one. The one who never caused drama." I sat up straight. "Hi, Aunt Helen." Her voice was careful, measured. "I heard what happened at your baby shower. And I heard Amanda's been telling people you're unstable." I said nothing. "I need to talk to you," Helen continued. "In person. Can you meet me for coffee?" I met Aunt Helen at a small cafe across town. She was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with 2 cups of tea. She stood and hugged me gently, carefully, as if I might break. "Sit," she said. "We need to talk." I sat across from her, my hands wrapped around the warm mug. Helen looked older than I remembered, her face lined with something I now recognized as weariness. "Tracy, what Amanda's doing to you isn't new. She's done this before." I blinked. "What do you mean?" Helen sighed and pulled out her phone. She scrolled through old photos and stopped on one. It showed a young woman with dark hair, smiling, standing next to a much younger Mark. "This is Jenna. Mark's girlfriend from college. They were together for 3 years. He was going to propose." I stared at the photo. Mark had told me about Jenna, but only briefly. He'd said they'd grown apart. "Amanda destroyed that relationship," Helen said. She told Jenna that Mark had a drinking problem, that he was financially irresponsible, that he'd never be stable enough to marry. None of it was true. She spread rumors through the family. She made Jenna feel isolated and crazy. Eventually, Jenna left. Mark never knew why. My heart was pounding. Why didn't anyone stop her? Because Amanda is very good at making it look like concern. She frames everything as protecting Mark. And Mark, bless him, has always been blind to it. He thinks his mother loves him unconditionally. He doesn't see that her love is control. Helen reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I have proof. Emails. Text messages." Jenna saved everything before she left. She slid a USB drive across the table. "You're going to need this." I picked up the drive. My hands were steady now. That night, I locked myself in the bathroom with my laptop and plugged in the USB drive. Inside were dozens of files. Emails between Amanda and various family members. Text messages between Amanda and Jenna. Even a recording of a phone call where Amanda told Jenna that Mark had been acting erratic and might be having a breakdown. None of it was true. It was all calculated. Systematic. Amanda had used the same playbook on Jenna that she was now using on me. The same fear-mongering. The same isolation. The same rewriting of reality. But Jenna had fought back. She'd documented everything. And then she'd left, taking the evidence with her. At the bottom of the folder was a note, written in a Word document. To whoever comes after me, I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to stay and fight. I hope you are. Amanda Green is a narcissist who cannot tolerate losing control of her son. She will destroy you to keep him. The only way to survive is to be smarter than she is. Document everything. Trust no one in that family except Helen. And when you're ready, fight back. Make her face what she's done. Don't let her win. Jenna, I read the note 3 times. Then I closed the laptop and sat on the bathroom floor, my back against the tub. The baby kicked, hard and insistent. I pressed my hand to the spot and felt her push back. Okay, I whispered. Okay. I wasn't going to cry anymore. I wasn't going to beg Mark to see the truth. I was going to be strategic. Cold. Deliberate. I was going to fight. The next morning, I stopped reacting to Amanda's comments. I stopped defending myself. I stopped crying. When Amanda made a dig, I smiled and said nothing. Mark noticed. You seem better, he said, relieved. I just smiled. Amanda noticed too. At Sunday dinner, she made her usual comments. Tracy, are you sure you should be eating that? The baby doesn't need all that salt. I looked at her calmly. Thank you for your concern, Amanda. She blinked, clearly thrown by my tone. Later, she cornered me in the kitchen. You've been very quiet lately. I've just been thinking, I said. About the baby. About family. About what comes next. Amanda studied me, suspicion flickering in her eyes. Well, I'm glad you're finally understanding how important family is. Mark needs support. This baby needs a stable environment. I completely agree, I said. In fact, I think we should have a family meeting. Get everyone together. Clear the air. Amanda's expression shifted to something almost triumphant. I think that's a wonderful idea. She thought she'd won. She thought I'd finally broken, finally accepted my place in the hierarchy. She had no idea what was coming. Over the next week, I prepared. I went through all my documentation. Every text message. Every recorded conversation I'd made on my phone when Amanda said something cruel. The USB drive from Jenna. The baby shower video that a friend had taken. I organized everything into a single folder, backed up in 3 places. Then I sent out invitations for a family dinner at our house. Let's all come together, I wrote. There's been too much tension. I think we need to talk openly and honestly. I want to make things right. Every member of the Green family RSVP'd yes. Mark was thrilled. I'm so proud of you, he said, kissing my forehead. I knew you'd come around. I smiled and said nothing. The night before the dinner, I set up my laptop in the living room, connected to the TV. I queued up the files. Then I went to bed and slept soundly for the first time in months. The family arrived at 6. Amanda came early to help, though really she wanted to control the narrative. She brought a casserole and a list of talking points she tried to show me. I think we should start by acknowledging that pregnancy is hard, she said, and that you've been under a lot of stress. No one blames you for being emotional. I smiled. That sounds perfect, Amanda. Why don't you set the table? Mark was nervous but hopeful. He kept squeezing my hand. This is going to be great. I can feel it. His parents, his aunt and uncle, his cousins, they all filled our living room, chatting and laughing. Amanda held court, the matriarch, completely in her element. At 7, I called everyone to sit down. They settled into chairs around the living room, plates of food balanced on their laps. Thank you all for coming, I said, standing near the TV. I know things have been tense lately, and I take responsibility for my part in that. Amanda nodded approvingly. Mark smiled. I think we all need to be honest with each other, I continued. Really honest. So tonight, I want to share some things with you. Things I think you need to hear. I picked up the remote. Amanda's smile faltered slightly. What do you mean? She asked. I pressed play. On the screen, a recording began. It was audio from a conversation I'd recorded 2 weeks earlier when Amanda thought I wasn't listening. Her voice was clear. I just need to break her down a little more before the baby comes. Once she's desperate enough, she'll do whatever I say. Mark won't fight me. He never does. The room went silent. The audio continued. Amanda's voice filled the room, cold and calculating. Tracy's so weak. She's so desperate to be liked. It's pathetic, really. Once the baby's here, I'll be the one raising it. Mark will side with me. He always does. The faces of Mark's family shifted from confusion to horror. Uncle Robert set down his plate. Aunt Diane's mouth fell open. Mark stared at the screen, his face pale. Where did you get this? Amanda demanded, standing up. Her voice was shrill now, the composure cracking. I paused the recording. From my phone. I recorded you, Amanda. 2 weeks ago. You were in the kitchen, talking to your friend Patricia. You thought I was napping. You had no right, I had every right, I said calmly. This is my home. My pregnancy. My life. I pressed play again. The recording shifted to another conversation, this one between Amanda and Mark. Mom, I think you're being too hard on Tracy. Mark, you need to trust me. I know what's best for this family. Tracy isn't strong enough. She'll fall apart, and then you'll need me. You'll always need me. Mark's voice was uncertain. I don't know. Do you want your child to suffer because you chose a weak wife? I raised you better than that. The recording ended. The room was completely silent. Mark looked at me, then at his mother. Mom? His voice was small, broken. Is that real? Amanda's mask slipped entirely. Mark, she edited that. She's manipulating you. She's trying to turn you against me. It's not edited, I said. I pulled out my phone and played the raw file. The timestamps were clear. The context was undeniable. Mark turned to his mother, his eyes filling with tears. You said you wanted to break her. You said she was weak. You said, Mark, I was venting. I didn't mean it. Yes, you did. His voice was louder now. You meant every word. Mark stood up, facing his mother. The room held its breath. How could you do this? His voice cracked. Tracy is my wife. She's carrying my child. And you've been sabotaging her this whole time? Amanda's face twisted. I was protecting you. She's not good enough for you, Mark. I've always known it. I gave up everything to raise you, and you repay me by choosing her. Protecting me. Mark's voice rose. You humiliated her at the baby shower. You've been making her feel crazy for months. Amanda stepped toward him, her voice desperate now. Mark, listen to me. You're upset. You're not thinking clearly. This baby has confused you. Stop, Mark said, holding up his hand. Just stop. He turned to me, his eyes red. Tracy, I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. I should have protected you. I nodded but said nothing. I wasn't ready to forgive him yet. Mark looked back at his mother. You need to leave. Mark, please, get out of my house. Amanda's face contorted with rage. You ungrateful, this baby was never meant to stay. I was going to take care of everything once it was born. I was going to fix your mistake. The room gasped. Even Amanda seemed to realize what she'd said. She'd revealed her true intention. She'd never wanted me to be a mother. She'd wanted to replace me. Mark's face went white. Get out. Now. Amanda looked around the room, searching for allies. She found none. Uncle Robert looked disgusted. Aunt Diane was crying. Even Amanda's own sister, Helen, shook her head. Amanda grabbed her purse and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The house was silent except for the ticking of the clock. Mark sank into a chair, his head in his hands. The family left shortly after, murmuring apologies and squeezing my hand as they passed. Aunt Helen hugged me tightly. You were so brave, she whispered. When everyone was gone, Mark and I sat in the living room, the weight of the evening settling between us. I don't know what to say, he finally said. I've been so blind. I let her treat you like this. I let her hurt you. I looked at him. You didn't just let her, Mark. You helped her. You deleted her text. You told me I was being dramatic. You chose her over me every single time. He nodded, tears streaming down his face. I know. And I don't know if you can ever forgive me. But I want to try. I want to fix this. Fixing this means therapy, I said. It means setting real boundaries with your mother. It means you putting me and this baby first, every single time, no exceptions. I will, he said. I promise. Promises aren't enough anymore, I said quietly. I need to see action. Mark nodded. I'll call a therapist tomorrow. I'll do whatever it takes. I stood up, exhausted. I'm going to bed. You can sleep in the guest room tonight. He didn't argue. Over the next few days, Mark followed through. He found a therapist who specialized in family dynamics. He drafted a formal letter to his mother, setting clear boundaries, no unsupervised contact, no decision-making regarding the baby, no manipulation. Amanda didn't respond to the letter. Instead, she hired a lawyer and sent us a letter of her own, threatening to pursue grandparents' rights the moment the baby was born. Mark was devastated. I wasn't surprised. I'd been preparing for this move for weeks. The letter from Amanda's lawyer was aggressive. It claimed that I was an unfit mother, that Mark was being manipulated, and that Amanda had a legal right to access her grandchild. It threatened a lengthy court battle. Mark panicked. What do we do? Can she actually do this? I pulled out a folder I'd been building for months. Inside was everything, the recordings, the screenshots of deleted texts I'd recovered, the USB drive from Jenna, medical records showing my elevated blood pressure with notes from Dr. Patel about emotional stress at home, and statements from Aunt Helen and other family members. She can try, I said. But she won't win. I'd already consulted a family lawyer back when Amanda first started escalating. The lawyer had advised me to document everything, which I had. She'd also explained that grandparents' rights were nearly impossible to enforce when both parents were united and there was evidence of emotional harm. We need to respond, I said. And we need to do it together. Mark and I met with my lawyer. She reviewed all the evidence and smiled grimly. This is one of the most well-documented cases I've ever seen. Amanda Green doesn't have a leg to stand on. In fact, if she pushes this, we can file for a restraining order based on harassment and emotional abuse. We drafted a response. It was firm, factual, and devastating. It laid out Amanda's pattern of behavior not just with me, but with Jenna. It included statements from family members. It cited the recordings. The response ended with a clear warning: if Amanda pursued legal action, we would file a countersuit for harassment and seek a permanent restraining order. We sent it via certified mail. 3 days later, Amanda's lawyer withdrew the case. She'd seen the evidence and advised Amanda to back down. Amanda sent one final text to Mark: "You've chosen her over your own mother. I'll never forgive you." Mark blocked her number. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. Amanda was cut off. No more texts. No more surprise visits. No more undermining comments. The baby seemed to sense it too. My blood pressure started dropping back to normal. Dr. Patel was thrilled. "Whatever you changed, keep doing it," she said. Mark threw himself into therapy. He was learning, slowly, how deeply his mother had conditioned him to prioritize her feelings over everyone else's. He was learning to recognize manipulation. He was learning to say no. One night, he came home from therapy and sat next to me on the couch. "I wrote something today," he said. "In therapy. My therapist suggested I write a letter to you, even if I don't send it. But I think you should read it." He handed me a piece of paper. I unfolded it. The letter was raw and honest. He apologized for his silence. He apologized for enabling his mother. He apologized for making me feel alone. He acknowledged that he'd failed me as a husband and that he was committed to doing better. I read it twice. "Thank you," I said quietly. "I'm not ready to forgive you completely yet. But this is a start." Mark nodded. "I know. And I'll keep working for it." Over the next few weeks, I started to reclaim my pregnancy. I redecorated the nursery exactly how I wanted it. Soft yellows and grays. A reading chair by the window. Books I loved lined up on the shelves. No input from Amanda. No compromises. Just mine. I attended appointments alone or with friends. I made decisions about labor and delivery based on what I wanted. I started to feel like a mother, not a pawn. The Green family slowly reached out. Aunt Helen visited often. Mark's cousins apologized for distancing themselves. Uncle Robert sent a heartfelt letter saying he should have spoken up sooner. The family dynamic had shifted permanently. Amanda was out. I was in. And everyone knew it. At 37 weeks, I went into labor. It was early evening. Mark and I were watching a movie when I felt the first contraction. "That's different," I said, pausing mid-sentence. Mark looked at me, eyes wide. "Different how?" "Like maybe we should go to the hospital different." We grabbed the hospital bag and drove carefully through the quiet streets. Mark held my hand the entire way, his grip tight. "You're going to be amazing," he whispered. At the hospital, I'd left specific instructions: only people on my approved list were allowed in. Mark. Aunt Helen. My best friend Carrie. Dr. Patel. No one else. The nurses checked my list carefully. "No exceptions?" one of them asked. "No exceptions," I confirmed. Labor was long. 18 hours of contractions, breathing, and exhaustion. But surrounded by people who loved me, people who respected my choices, I felt safe. When my daughter was finally born, small and perfect and wailing, I held her against my chest and cried. Not from pain or fear, but from overwhelming relief. "She's here," I whispered. "She's safe." Mark kissed my forehead, tears streaming down his face. "You did it. You're incredible." We named her Sophie. Sophie Green. A fresh start. A new chapter. The next day, flowers arrived from various family members. Balloons. Cards. Aunt Helen brought homemade soup. But there was nothing from Amanda. Mark checked his blocked messages once, just to see. There was a single text, sent at 3 a.m. the night Sophie was born. I hope you're happy. You've ruined this family. Mark deleted it without showing me. But Helen told me about it later. 2 weeks after Sophie was born, a letter arrived at our house. It was addressed to me, in Amanda's handwriting. Mark saw it first. Do you want me to throw it away? He asked. I thought about it. Part of me wanted to burn it without reading. But another part of me was curious. No, I said. I'll read it. I opened the envelope carefully. Inside was 2 pages of Amanda's neat, slanted handwriting. The letter started with an apology. Dear Tracy, I've spent a lot of time reflecting on my behavior, and I realize now that I made mistakes. I kept reading. But the apology quickly dissolved into justification. I only wanted what was best for Mark and the baby. I was scared of losing my son. You have to understand, I gave up everything to raise him. My career. My identity. He was my whole world. The letter went on. She talked about how hard it was to watch Mark build a life without her. She talked about feeling replaced. She talked about how no one appreciated her sacrifices. By the end, the letter wasn't an apology at all. It was a plea for sympathy. A reframing of herself as the victim. There was no acknowledgement of the harm she'd caused. No recognition that I was a person with feelings. Just a long explanation of why she'd been justified in trying to control my life. At the bottom, she'd written, I hope one day you'll forgive me and let me be part of Sophie's life. She deserves to know her grandmother. I folded the letter and put it back in the envelope. Then I placed it in my filing cabinet, next to all the other documentation. I didn't respond. Mark asked me later what the letter said. She apologized, I said. But it wasn't real. Are you going to write back? No. I don't owe her closure. Sophie was a month old when Mark had his breakthrough in therapy. He came home that evening, his face serious but lighter somehow. I told my therapist everything today, he said. About growing up. About how Mom made me feel responsible for her happiness. About how I learned to avoid conflict because it was easier than standing up to her. He sat down next to me on the couch. Sophie was asleep in my arms, her tiny fist curled against my chest. I've been enabling her my entire life, Mark continued. And I enabled her abuse of you because I was too scared to face her. I'm so ashamed. I looked at him. What matters now is what you do going forward. I know, he said. And I want to make a public apology. To you. To the family. I want everyone to know that I failed you, and that I'm committed to being better. The next Sunday, at a family dinner hosted by Aunt Helen, Mark stood up and addressed everyone. I need to say something, he began, his voice shaking slightly. I owe Tracy an apology. A public one. For months, I stood by while my mother hurt her. I made excuses. I minimized her pain. I chose my mother's comfort over my wife's safety. And I'm deeply, deeply sorry. The room was silent. Mark turned to me. Tracy, you are the strongest person I know. You protected our daughter when I wouldn't. You fought for our family when I was too weak. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm going to spend the rest of my life earning it. I felt tears prick my eyes. It wasn't about the words. It was about the accountability. The willingness to be vulnerable in front of his family. Aunt Helen started clapping. Then the others joined in. It wasn't applause for Mark. It was acknowledgement. Witnessing. The family had seen what happened, and now they were seeing the work of repair. Over the next few months, life found a new rhythm. Sophie grew. Mark continued therapy and started reading books about emotional abuse and enmeshment. He joined a support group for adult children of narcissistic parents. He was doing the work. I was healing too, but slower. Trust doesn't rebuild overnight. Some days I looked at Mark and felt anger rise up, sudden and sharp. Other days I felt hope. Our therapist said that was normal. You're grieving the marriage you thought you had, she explained. And that's okay. Grief isn't linear. One afternoon, I was rocking Sophie to sleep when my phone rang. It was Jenna, Mark's ex-girlfriend. Helen had given her my number. I hope it's okay that I called, Jenna said. Helen told me what happened. I wanted to reach out. We talked for over an hour. Jenna told me her side of the story, how Amanda had destroyed her relationship with Mark, how she'd spent years in therapy recovering from the gaslighting. I'm so glad you fought back, Jenna said. I always wondered if I should have stayed and exposed her. But I was so young. I didn't know how. You did what you needed to do to survive, I said. And your documentation helped me. So thank you. I'm just glad someone finally stopped her. After we hung up, I sat with Sophie and thought about Amanda. I didn't hate her anymore. I didn't feel angry. I just felt sad. Sad that she'd built her entire identity around control. Sad that she'd destroyed relationships to maintain it. Sad that she'd never get to know her granddaughter because she couldn't let go. But that sadness wasn't mine to carry. It was hers. Sophie's first Christmas was quiet and perfect. We hosted dinner at our house. Aunt Helen came. Mark's cousins and their kids. A few close friends. No drama. No tension. Just laughter and warmth. Mark's father, who had divorced Amanda shortly after everything came to light, stopped by briefly. He held Sophie and cried. I'm sorry, he said to me. I should have protected you. I should have left her years ago. You're here now, I said. That's what matters. After dinner, I stepped outside onto the porch. The air was cold and crisp. I could hear laughter from inside, the sound of family. Real family. Mark joined me, wrapping a blanket around my shoulders. You okay? He asked. Yeah, I said. I really am. That night, after everyone left and Sophie was asleep, I sat down and wrote in my journal. I'd started keeping one after everything happened, a way to process and remember. I wrote, Amanda tried to break me. She tried to make me small, afraid, and dependent. She wanted me to believe I wasn't strong enough to be a mother. But all she did was teach me who I really am. I am strong. I am capable. I am enough. And my daughter will grow up knowing that no one, not even family, has the right to make her feel less than she is. I closed the journal and looked at the baby monitor. Sophie slept peacefully, unaware of the battles fought for her before she even arrived. She would never know Amanda's manipulation. She would never feel the weight of that control. Because I had fought for her. And I had won. When Sophie turned 6 months old, Amanda made one final attempt at contact. She sent a birthday card to Sophie, along with a gift. A silver rattle, expensive and engraved. The card read, To my beautiful granddaughter. I love you even if I'm not allowed to meet you. One day you'll understand. Love, Grandma. Mark wanted to send it back. She's trying to manipulate Sophie now. Even as a baby. But I had a different idea. I put the card and the rattle in a box. I labeled it, From Amanda, and stored it in the attic. One day, when Sophie is old enough, she can decide for herself what she wants to know about her grandmother, I said. But it won't be because Amanda guilt her way back in. It'll be Sophie's choice. On her terms. Mark nodded slowly. You're right. That's fair. The rest of Sophie's first year passed peacefully. She learned to crawl, then to pull herself up on furniture. She laughed and babbled and reached for everything. Mark was a devoted father. He got up for night feedings. He changed diapers without complaint. He read to her every night. And slowly, session by session, therapy appointment by therapy appointment, I learned to trust him again. Not blindly, but carefully. Intentionally. Our marriage wasn't the same as it had been before Amanda's sabotage. It was different. Harder one. More honest. We had both learned that love wasn't enough. Love required action. Boundaries. Accountability. Repair. And we were doing the work. Some days were hard. But most days, we were okay. And okay, I had learned, was enough. Now, 2 years later, Sophie is a toddler. She runs through our house, laughing and wild and free. She has Mark's eyes and my stubbornness. She is loved fiercely by the family we chose to keep close. The Green family still asks about Amanda sometimes. Do you think she'll ever change? Aunt Helen asked once. I shook my head. I don't think so. And I don't need her to. My life doesn't revolve around her anymore. People ask me if I regret how things went down. If I wish I'd handled it differently. I don't. I defended my peace. I protected my child. I set boundaries that saved my life and my marriage. Amanda lost control, and that was the consequence of her choices. Mark learned accountability. He learned that silence is complicity. He learned that being a husband and father means standing up, even when it's uncomfortable. And me? I learned that I was never the problem. I was never too sensitive, too dramatic, too weak. I was someone being systematically torn down by a woman who couldn't tolerate losing power. And I was strong enough to fight back. The revenge wasn't destruction. It wasn't cruelty. It was truth. It was boundaries. It was choosing myself and my daughter when no one else would. Amanda tried to break me. She thought pregnancy would make me vulnerable enough to control. She thought motherhood would trap me in her web. But all she did was teach me who I really was. I am Tracy Green. I am a mother. I am a wife. I am a woman who will not be silenced or diminished. And my daughter will grow up knowing that she never has to shrink herself to make others comfortable. She will know her worth. Because I fought for mine. And I won. If this story resonated with you, please let me know in the comments. Share your own experiences. And subscribe for more stories.